Hello, my name is Stephanie Van Riet. I am a artist. I grew up in Boston, but I've lived in Philadelphia and worked here for a few years now. I am a multidisciplinary artist, but I've been working in sculpture and installation as well as printmaking on my past few projects. So I've always been someone who's been really curious about, like, why are we here? Why do we exist? What is all this about? And, what's the truth in the world? So I've been kind of looking at truth tellers or, fortune tellers. How do we as humans create order and figure out what everything means? So this piece was a deconstructed magic 8-ball, and how does it have any meaning when, it's taken apart? So I got really curious about these shapes that Plato a long time ago had, considered the elements of the universe that all made out a different shape. And this icosahedron is the shape that's inside that magic 8-ball, and it represents the spirit to them. So it's like, that's so interesting that this shape, is this part of our universe. And so I was exploring, how do these theorems that we're using to explain our world and astrophysics and, all these crazy concepts, how do they overlap, and what truth is there really in that? It's all made up. So I was exploring how, my surroundings fit into these shapes, and how do I distill what I'm experiencing down into, proportions of geometry, as well as exploring how we relate in this greater cosmic order, and what's our relationship to this daily routine. I was having trouble figuring out how to convey those ideas until I was on a trip to Costa Rica, and I was walking on a beach, and I discovered these snail trails. I was like, this is all that I've ever thought of. This explains everything about life. So I got a little bit obsessed with these trails that I've now found out are all the way down the east coast of the United States. And I've seen them in different areas, and basically they're created during low tide, and snails are beached and they wander around for food and mates, and they kind of chart where they are on the land. It's like, I love these markings, and I want to explore how, when the tide first goes out, there's just barely nascent, and then as time goes on, there's become so intricate and interwoven. So this was a solvent transfer where I put them next to each other and kind of compared those designs. So then I decided I want to make a big map of these trails, and how does that exist with this experience of time, which is this piece behind in a different formation. To make these tiles, I replicated the tracks and then poured plaster into mold. So this was like my daily routine for 3 weeks, was waking up and mixing plaster and pouring the molds, and doing that again and again to amass about 150 molds. And then I used a cyanotype solution where I was able to account for that time that, exists in this process. So I would coat these tiles, and I put them outside in sunlight at different times and different weather, and got different results. So that that experience was part of this fleeting, trace that was left behind, but not for very long. Only a couple of hours were these tracks on the sand and visible. So I really wanted to fossilize the magic and the wonder of just this day-to-day routine, that everyone's having the day-to-day routine, and they just, it just days go by, and they're not all fossilized and recorded. So I then thought, how can I bring these trails and project them back when they're no longer there? So I became interested especially in where the trails intersect with each other, where either one snail goes over another snail's track or one loops back around. They started pinpointing that constellation. And I took this data set and applied for a grant at Brandeis University where they have a maker lab. And I said, I really want to make a geodesic dome, which is another one of those spiritual shapes. And I want to create this greenhouse solar effect where they're going to project these tracks onto the sand, that these guides can be back. And then as the tide comes in, it's going to disrupt that marking. So I laser cut the trails into the panels and then got these coordinates where they're intersecting with each other to create that constellation that would come through with the sunlight. So this is the dome as it turned out, and it was installed on this beach in Massachusetts. So yeah, just this idea that the sun is coming down and activating this dome, but then you can also look up and you can look out towards the sky. So that relationship of, the sky to the ground. And here you can see the tracks reflected into the sand. And then as the tide comes in, it would disrupt that design and then come out. So I've still been exploring the sea snail. I just became a little bit obsessed. But this print I just made is called How a Common Sea Snail Explains the Universe. And I truly think there's so much in there to be curious about. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all of you for being here, and the Dina Wind Foundation and InLiquid and all my pals. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This show is in memory and in collaboration with the Dina Wind Foundation, which is very close to my heart, because before Dina was diagnosed with cancer, we had been talking about exhibiting our work. Juliet, our development director, came up with this idea of how do we sort of embrace, some artists that are underseen and under-recognized. And so we're really trying to figure out how we could be more dynamic, more accessible, more meaningful, and how we could actually honor Dina. And we really thought by creating this fellowship, it would be a nice way of supporting artists that need a little more support, a little more help. And also one of the reasons why I started InLiquid was having gone to art school in New York and not having mentors or supporters here. When I moved back to Philadelphia, I was a fish out of water. No one knew who I was. I had family, friends from high school, but no support system. And after you graduate school, you have no place to show your work. We need to support our artists in a better way. So I want to welcome all of you to being part of our community, and take advantage of it and reach out to us if you need or help. We know a lot of people in the city. We can't promise anything, but we'll do our best job to be good, nurturers. And I want to introduce my friend and my co-conspirator, John Wind.
Hello, thanks, Rachel. Thank you, Sarah, Juliet, Rachel, Claire, the whole InLiquid team. This is really a gratifying experience because we get to make a difference, touch a bunch of artists' lives, and offer something that just wasn't there before for all the reasons that Rachel mentioned. And the connection with my mom, she started as a serious artist kind of late. She had a family, and as my brother and I were in high school and moving out of the house, that's when she really leaned into her art making. And she was kind of a maverick. She learned how to weld. She could have welded bridges, like she got a diploma in welding, serious industrial welding, but she chose to apply it to art. And she always identified with young artists and with women and with kind of the underdog, and just focused on making the work and the quality of the work. So she would have loved this program and the opportunities and connecting with a new generation of young artists This year, the fact that it's mostly female artists, that's that would have been close to her heart as well. So congratulations to all of you. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And thanks InLiquid for the opportunity.